Did you know that men engage in destiny swapping more frequently than women, and often do so with little consequence? While men need women to create life, they can also leverage women to advance their own trajectories. This pattern is strikingly common. A successful, radiant, and vibrant woman becomes involved with a man who has yet to establish his life. She invests love, encouragement, and support only to find that her own momentum begins to wane, sometimes subtly and sometimes dramatically. For those of us who are spiritually attuned, many of us grew up without consistent or complete love from our families. These early deficits can leave lasting imprints, programs within us that individuals like warlocks can exploit. Prolonged involvement with an unhealthy partner can manifest as physical, emotional, or psychological changes, weight fluctuations, negative thought patterns, shifts in self-perception, or even illness. If a child enters the equation, the energetic drain is magnified, and the woman's vitality and spark can diminish seemingly overnight. Of course, this does not implicate all men, just as destiny swapping is not universal among women, but it is a phenomenon that occurs often discreetly. Warlocks frequently target women for the purpose of destiny swaps. The most direct method involves mirroring a woman's energy to replace or elevate their own life, but subtler tactics also exist. Some swappers bypass the direct transfer entirely, siphoning energy to propel themselves while the woman remains stagnant. A notable public example involves Halle Bailey and DDG. In this instance, individuals with significant cultural influence were weaponized, generating both media negativity and personal turmoil. This case illustrates how swappers operate. They monitor moments of brilliance, observe your ascension, and seek to either replicate or feed off your energy for their gain. I explore this topic more deeply in my video, Baby Trapping Destiny Swap, which examines these dynamics, particularly the manipulations surrounding child entrapment. Be sure to check it out. Be judicious in how and with whom you share your energy. Not everyone is deserving of your light. Discernment is crucial. Destiny swapping and energy siphoning are real forces. Awareness is your primary defense. Warlocks and practitioners of dark arts have the capacity to manipulate and steal destinies through the siphoning of life force. When an individual is harvesting your energy, they are essentially using your vitality to augment their own, leaving you depleted and obstructed from achieving your true potential. This practice is widespread, sophisticated, and often subtle. In essence, a person may be strategically placed in your life, intimately familiar with your routines, behaviors, and personal nuances, not out of coincidence, but with the deliberate purpose of extracting your energy. Their objective is to intercept your blessings, usurp your talents, absorb your light, and ultimately, attempt a form of destiny swapping. While this is occurring, your own path remains blocked. They are feeding off your life force to fuel their existence. Unlike those who achieve success through diligence or divine guidance, these individuals do not awaken one day with ambition or direction. Their growth is parasitic. They siphon from your energy to sustain their vitality, akin to a battery that requires constant charging. Devoid of spiritual grounding, they rely on external sources to replenish their energy reserves. If you notice persistent fatigue, diminished drive, or a chronic sense of depletion that exceeds ordinary exhaustion, it is likely a manifestation of energy siphoning. The mechanics of destiny swapping and witchcraft are highly complex. There are various levels of practitioners, ranging in capability and power, often augmented by entrenched generational iniquity. Iniquity, sin repeated and unrepented across generations, creates spiritual access points, allowing certain individuals to operate with amplified potency. The more deeply ingrained these patterns, the more formidable and dangerous the practitioner. These energy siphoners are, in essence, spiritual predators, entities whose vibrational frequency is low, whose existence is marked by karmic accumulation, and whose inability to heal perpetuates their parasitic behaviors. They manipulate your frequency by attempting to draw you out of alignment, lowering your vibrational state just enough to extract your vitality. The result is a profound sense of exhaustion, mental fog, and disarray when in their presence. Your energy and your spiritual momentum are being commandeered to sustain theirs. Many of these practitioners are spiritually immature, operating from a place of ignorance rather than wisdom. These rituals and practices are often fueled by narcissistic or immature spiritual forces, souls who disregard spiritual laws and operate outside the divine order. God, however, has positioned you in their path as both a test and a teacher. Regarding destiny, it is indeed possible for witches and warlocks to siphon life force and even interfere with the God-ordained path set for you. This is not arbitrary. It requires access. Open doors, whether personal, generational, or ancestral, allow the enemy a foothold. Spiritual access is foundational. Without it, no amount of dark manipulation can succeed. The more open doors exist, the more leverage these forces have. This is why prayer alone, without addressing these vulnerabilities, can sometimes feel like chasing your tail. Destiny theft targets those marked for spiritual purpose or calling. When others recognize your power, it poses a threat to them, but when your potential is hidden, it can be even more advantageous. as they quietly siphon your God-given blessings and potential in the kingdom. Have you ever wondered why you might feel an inexplicable pull towards someone who is a warlock or deeply involved in spiritual practices? The reason often lies in your own bloodline. Your ancestors, grandparents, aunts, uncles, or even parents may have had interactions with spiritual realms, whether overt or subtle. When you encounter someone engaging in similar practices, it can feel familiar, even if you've never directly participated. That sense of déjà vu, that subtle recognition, is your lineage whispering through you. Even in families that outwardly identify as Christian, spiritual practices often exist quietly, hidden from plain view. I can speak to this personally. I come from bloodlines with a history of spiritual engagement. I've shared previously that I believe my mother and grandmother were involved in witchcraft, though I lacked proof in my I was a witch video. Recently, a family member confirmed that they are indeed connected to Eastern Star traditions, and my father's side includes Freemasons. Both sides of my family engaged in spiritual practices that were never openly discussed. These traditions are often subtle. Individuals may publicly identify as Christian while quietly participating in Masonic or other spiritual practices like voodoo, hoodoo, or Santeria. Magic, in particular, is rarely overt. It is frequently hidden within the rhythms of everyday life. Unless you are included, you may never be aware of it. I once authored an occult manuscript after years of rigorous study and practice. That immersion gave me an insider's understanding of how practitioners conceal their workings, allowing me to discern the subtle patterns and coded behaviors others often overlook. Watch for patterns in behavior that reveal spiritual misalignment. Fascination with violence, whether through media, conversation, or entertainment, can indicate hidden influences, especially when someone claims to be Christian. Pay attention to their fruit, not just their words. Consistent engagement with worldly or blasphemous music and media is another warning sign. Emotional inconsistency, such as sudden mood swings from joy to cruelty, reflects confusion and a lack of divine guidance, often signaling allegiance to forces opposed to God. Finally, attempts to control your appearance, personal choices, or even your consumption can be a subtle way to manipulate your energy or spirit, which is spiritually dangerous and should never be ignored. Always seek God's guidance before forming close relationships or making long-term commitments. Ask for clarity, wisdom, and discernment. Avoid rushing into starting a family or building a shared life without fully understanding the spiritual nature of the person you are engaging with. Even if your own bloodline is intertwined with Eastern Star traditions, Freemasonry, or other structured spiritual systems, your life can still be orderly and grounded, but it must be guided by God's discernment, not manipulation from others. It is important to recognize that some men, particularly those practicing dark arts, can be aggressive, manipulative, and spiritually predatory. Warlocks who seek energy or manifestation power may employ extreme manipulation, cold calculation, and even spells to ensure obedience or control. Understanding these dynamics is crucial to protecting your energy, your destiny, and your alignment with God. First, it's important to recognize that when we enter life, many of us carry seasons of incompleteness, wounds, insecurities, or unresolved issues that subtly permeate our energy. We are not fully whole, and this spiritual brokenness often makes us vulnerable in ways we may not even realize. As women, we must understand a crucial principle. Warlocks are naturally drawn to brokenness. They possess the ability to discern unhealed areas within your spirit and are strategic in how they approach them. A warlock can perceive any vulnerability and will use it as a foothold. They attach themselves to your life and manipulate your weaknesses, presenting themselves as the solution to the very pain they are exploiting. What appears as care and protection is often a sophisticated strategy to ensnare and spiritually cage you. Another critical point is the spiritual dynamic underlying certain lifestyles. Many men involved in the streets, gangs, or illicit activities operate under warlock spirits. Participation in these environments often requires initiation rituals, which can involve trading or binding their spirit in exchange for protection, status, or group inclusion. This is why so many women feel inexplicably drawn to bad boys with flashy appearances or dangerous lifestyles. These men are frequently warlocks, and entering into a relationship with them often means inadvertently entering into spiritual contracts. Each act of agreement, intimacy, or alignment with them can confer spiritual rights over your spirit, binding you in ways you never intended. This brings to mind the case of Valeria MARQUEZ, a young influencer from Jalisco, Guadalajara, Mexico. After becoming involved with a prominent figure in the narco world, she fell victim to a ritual sacrifice linked to Santa Muerte. Disturbingly, her friends were allegedly coerced into participating in the ritual, and the case remains unresolved to this day. For a more in-depth exploration of her story, you can watch my video titled The Sacrifice of Valeria MARQUEZ. I'll pin the video in the description box so you can easily find it there. And don't be misled, warlocks come in many forms. It isn't just bad boys from the streets or the narco world. Plenty of polished 9-to-5 professionals dabble in manipulation and the occult, And to the men listening, women do this too. If it helps, simply reverse the roles. Plenty of witches use these same tactics against men, so if you're a guy watching this, know that this message applies to you as well. Many creators tend to overcomplicate the subject of warlocks, making it seem shrouded in mystery, but the truth is much simpler. Once you understand the core principles, everything becomes clear. All warlocks follow the same fundamental blueprint. It's predictable, repeatable, and not nearly as mysterious as it's often portrayed. What I'm about to describe happens when you entangle yourself with a warlock, but the pattern mirrors what you see with severe narcissists. Narcissists operate like witches, through manipulation, illusion, and psychological spells. When Satan was cast out of heaven, it was the fruit of pride, an obsession with image that exalted the self above God. That same spirit animates narcissism. Protecting the facade matters more to them than truth. To keep that illusion intact, they gaslight, lie, and abuse, conditioning you to perceive them as flawless, even if it costs you your sanity. Gaslighting functions like a spell. It clouds perception, corrodes self-worth, and distorts reality. How many times have you thought, "I'll never find anyone better," only to look back later and realize they were painfully average? That's enchantment at work, making you believe they were something they never were. Gaslighting functions like a spell. It clouds perception, corrodes self-worth, and distorts reality. At root, this is spiritual. Narcissists are unusually skilled at demonic manipulation. Operating under the Jezebel spirit, they have an intuitive grasp of how to control without formal occult training. Proximity to dark influences gives them knowledge by association. So everything I'm about to outline for warlocks applies to high-level narcissists because they follow the same blueprint. So, if you're dealing with a narcissist, remember, you're essentially dealing with a natural-born warlock. This is how the cycle unfolds. Love bombing. They overwhelm you with attention, praise, and urgency, manufacturing a sense of destiny and inevitability. Accelerated intimacy. Physical and emotional intimacy is fast-tracked to hook your soul and bind your discernment. Devaluation and discard, the humiliation ritual. Once you're invested, they withdraw, belittle, or abruptly discard you to fracture your identity and make you chase the original high. Hoovering. They return with gifts, apologies, even money, anything to reopen the door and reestablish control. Covenant binding and siphoning. When you accept the reentry terms, gifts, intimacy, agreements, you enter a spiritual covenant, often without realizing it. This is where siphoning begins. In spiritual terms, they seek to open access points, also known as portals, commonly symbolized as the back of the neck, the head, private parts, the palms, and the soles, so they can maintain persistent access to your spirit even in their absence. Triangulation. They introduce past lovers, or even just the mention of them, into the relationship with the intention of making you feel insecure, jealous, or competitive. But it doesn't stop there. By drawing these individuals back into your orbit, those same people can begin to tap into your energy field. This creates an energetic entanglement where not only are you being emotionally manipulated, but your spiritual vitality is also being siphoned, leaving you drained and destabilized. Social encirclement. You introduce them to friends and family. They're thrilled because control scales with proximity. They recruit flying monkeys, those operating under an Ahab spirit, to manage the narrative and police your relationships. Isolation. By the time the smear campaign settles, even your own circle may be turned against you. Isolation reinforces dependence and deepens the spell. The awakening, or the lingering trance. Many women wake up at this stage, but some remain, still blinded by the web of enchantments and fear. I'm going to break down each of these steps in detail so you can see what's really happening, and more importantly, how to cut ties, reclaim your authority, and close every spiritual door they've tried to pry open. Many fail to recognize that we are living in an era of heightened spiritual activity, where malevolent forces are especially active. The devil operates with precision, employing emissaries well-versed in the dark arts, individuals trained to manipulate, influence, and ensnare souls in pursuit of the objectives of the kingdom of darkness. Let's consider the scenario in which you've been dating a warlock for a few weeks. By this point, you're already emotionally and spiritually invested in the relationship. Though the relationship is still relatively new, the warlock is now initiating the next phase of their takeover of your spirit. Make no mistake, this is exactly what it is, a deliberate attempt to dominate your spirit. At this stage, the warlock will often initiate a ritual with you, one you may not even recognize as such. More often than not, this takes the form of a humiliation ritual. Its purpose is to lower your spiritual vibration through shame, embarrassment, or violation, either in private or public. Once your vibration is sufficiently diminished, the warlock can begin energetically attaching themselves to you. Intimacy may or may not have occurred yet, but the essential goal is the same. They need to destabilize you spiritually. Wherever you stand in the spiritual realm, The ritual is designed to displace you by eliciting intense emotional reactions. The aim is to provoke retaliation or reactive energy. Once you enter this reactive state, the warlock can attach themselves to you energetically. For a warlock, everything revolves around energy. When you begin a relationship with one, their first objective is to secure your permission, explicit or implicit, to gain access to your spirit. After this ritual, the warlock gains deeper access to your spirit, and many people begin to experience clear symptoms of spiritual infiltration, including extreme fatigue, mood instability, loss of interest in natural passions. For instance, creatives may suddenly lose the drive to create. This occurs because the warlock's presence disrupts your natural energy. Your vitality is siphoned, leaving you disconnected from your intrinsic zeal and enthusiasm. Mood and vibration awareness. You may notice persistent lethargy or a sense of heaviness. Activities that normally bring joy feel flat. If you wake in good spirits, the warlock may appear irritable or upset. Energy siphoners sense your elevated energy but can only feed when your vibration is low. Maintaining high energy is critical to protecting yourself. Another sign is when someone consistently seems to benefit from your presence, suddenly gaining opportunities, wealth, or material possessions. Often, these gains are fueled by your own energy, leaving you depleted while they thrive. Dependency on your energy. Some individuals' stability depends entirely on your energy. Their well-being diminishes in your absence because they lack the capacity to generate energy independently. Resistance to your growth. If someone resents your progress, whether small changes like altering your appearance or major life advancements, this is a red flag. Energy siphoners prefer stagnancy because it ensures a steady supply of your energy. Growth and self-actualization block them from feeding. Moving forward, at this stage, you are already bound, invested emotionally and psychologically in the relationship, and have likely experienced a form of calculated humiliation. Often this manifests as what appears to be a minor disagreement or argument. Many well-intentioned women interpret such moments as ordinary conflict, failing to recognize them for what they truly are: deliberate rituals of subjugation. It is essential to understand that a warlock operates with deliberate and strategic intent. His objective is the gradual takeover of your spirit. What may seem to you a trivial or commonplace dispute is, in reality, a meticulously orchestrated step in dismantling your emotional and spiritual defenses. Following such conflicts, depending on his disposition, the warlock may attempt to reassert influence through gestures of appeasement, gifts, surprises, or even substantial financial offerings. By accepting these gestures, you inadvertently consent to a deeper level of spiritual compromise. Unknowingly, you are affirming, "I permit you access to my spirit. I allow your infiltration." Though this consent may be unconscious, it is binding within the metaphysical framework of his manipulation. Now, subtle but discernible shifts begin to manifest within your life. They are not overtly dramatic, but may present as a persistent sense of unease, fatigue, or emotional alteration, signals insufficiently pronounced to trigger conscious alarm. This is often the point at which intimacy is introduced. With your defenses already compromised through prior humiliation and the tacit acceptance of gifts, intimacy is transformed from an active connection into a vector for spiritual manipulation. Physical union becomes a conduit through which portals are opened within your spirit. The drained, empty, or unsettled sensation you may experience afterward is not emotional, it is a metaphysical signal of spiritual compromise. So now, the warlock has already established metaphysical portals on your body, and extensive ritualized work has been undertaken. He possesses comprehensive knowledge of your personal identifiers, your full name, birth date, and intimate details of your life, and you may now be introducing him to your immediate social circle, including friends and family. He exhibits exaggerated enthusiasm about participating in family gatherings or publicizing your relationship. This behavior is not benign. It represents a calculated effort to map your social ecosystem, identifying individuals with whom you share close emotional or daily connections. Such intelligence is essential to his spiritual strategy, enabling him to expand his metaphysical influence through your network. Following the activation of these portals, you may begin to experience a range of subtle yet profound physical and energetic phenomena. Emotions may arise that are incongruent with your own state, as if an external energetic overlay has been imposed. Random somatic discomforts may manifest. These are clear indicators of active spiritual intrusion, facilitated through the portals. Ocular discomfort is another common manifestation, reflecting the warlock's utilization of your eyes as conduits for remote observation. This coincides with behavioral evidence of surveillance, such as persistent calls or messages correlating with your movements. While these actions may superficially appear as concern or affection, they function primarily to reinforce his remote spiritual access. Warlocks and witches monitor not only physical location, but also verbal and electronic communications, social interactions, and financial activities. Obsession is an inherent byproduct of their alignment with dark forces, generating compulsive patterns of thought and behavior designed to perpetuate control. There's a great series on Netflix called Behind Her Eyes that touches on this phenomenon. While the main theme isn't specifically about destiny swaps, but rather possession, it illustrates similar concepts. The story follows a single mother who becomes entangled in a mysterious affair with her psychiatrist boss, while also developing an unexpected friendship with his enigmatic wife. As the plot unfolds, it's revealed that occult practices like astral projection, ocular viewing, and remote viewing play a central role in the manipulation and control of others. The series does a fascinating job of showing how these dark spiritual practices can be used to invade people's lives and even their bodies. I highly recommend checking it out. Alright, so let's go back to see what happens next. At this stage, marked shifts in energy and somatic experience often become evident. Bodily functions may fluctuate, unusual pains may manifest, and spiritual alerts, often conveyed through dreams or heightened intuitive awareness, begin to surface. Such dreams may feature unfamiliar environments, anomalous actions, or symbolic attacks, frequently involving other women. This reflects the broader network of witches associated with the Warlock, who anticipate accessing your spiritual energy via the established portals. Within this framework, the Warlock frequently employs triangulation or orchestrated relational networks to amplify spiritual extraction. Individuals from past relationships may remain present, not from loyalty or affection, but as instruments to siphon your energy. Those possessing heightened spiritual potency effectively become a focal point for energy harvesting, an alluring source for those aligned with dark forces. It is important to understand that other women can siphon energy from women through a man, and this process is both subtle and deliberate. Here's how it operates. Consider a scenario in which you are involved with a man. You carry a distinct energetic signature, and through your interactions, some of that energy is shared with him. This energy can enhance his charisma, amplify his abundance, and facilitate his flow in life, both materially and spiritually. If another woman becomes involved with him, potentially a witch, she is often drawn not to his physical attributes, wealth, or skills, but to the energy he retains from you. By engaging with him, she begins to siphon this energy for her own benefit. The man functions as a conduit through which it is transferred to her. She gains vitality and empowerment while he remains a channel. Ultimately, these interactions are fundamentally transactional and energetically exploitative rather than relationally reciprocal, highlighting the critical importance of understanding energy exchange, spiritual alignment, and the consequences of unconscious energetic entanglement. In sum, the Warlock's objective is not relational intimacy, but the systematic infiltration and appropriation of your spirit, facilitated through strategic rituals, social mapping, and ongoing metaphysical surveillance. The Warlock's objective is comprehensive control, not only over you, but over everyone within your social sphere. He seeks intimate knowledge of your relationships, your communications, and your connections. If necessary, he will exploit technology to obtain phone numbers, infiltrate your email, and monitor your activity, all without your awareness. This enables him to subversively manipulate your friendships, your social circle, and even your family system. Through occult practices, spellwork, and calculated slander, he undermines your reputation while simultaneously extending his influence over those closest to you. Just like Narcissist operating under Jezebel's spirit, Warlock is seeking to recruit his flying monkeys, operating under the spirit of Ahab. Why does the Warlock operate in this manner? The answer lies in energy extraction. By controlling the perception and behavior of the people in your life, he isolates you. Isolation is a strategic tool. It diminishes your vibrational frequency and disconnects you from the natural flow of communal and relational energy. As a result, you become more susceptible to spiritual infiltration. Consider the dynamics of social manipulation. The Warlock cultivates a negative narrative about you while maintaining contact. You may observe changes in the behavior of those around you. Friends, family, or colleagues may act unusually, question your integrity, or openly defy you. Often, he will privately exploit these circumstances to reinforce humiliation, suggesting, for example, that your difficulties are a reflection of your own shortcomings. These tactics systematically lower your vibrational frequency, facilitating easier access to your spirit and energy. Energy siphoning manifests both subtly and physically. One primary indication is a sudden, unprovoked surge of nervousness, particularly in the chest area. This may occur while at rest, during routine activities, or immediately upon waking. Unlike ordinary anxiety, this sensation is often accompanied by discernible shifts in your life circumstances, reflecting the external manipulation of your energy. You begin to feel disconnected from your true self and notice that the achievements and blessings you worked so hard for are slipping away. It may indicate the onset of a destiny swap. What is lost from you is often gained by another. In this case, your Warlock. Beyond the personal and social, the Warlock also targets financial prosperity. Knowledge of your routines, connections, and professional networks allows him to obstruct opportunities, induce setbacks, and generate financial stagnation. At this stage, financial obstruction rituals are frequently employed, redirecting your divinely ordained spiritual inheritance to serve the purposes of the warlock. Over time, abundance diminishes, peace is replaced by frustration, and supportive relationships erode. These shifts reflect the broader consequences of energetic siphoning, depression, anxiety, and systemic destabilization. The mechanism is analogous to a viral takeover. The warlock seeks to inhabit your energy, to appropriate the vibrational qualities you generate. Because he is spiritually aligned with darkness, he lacks the capacity to produce genuine positive energy. Instead, he drapes himself in yours, projecting it outward to create the illusion of charisma, strength, and radiance. Others are drawn to him not because of his inherent qualities, but because of the energy he has stolen. Ultimately, the warlock's strategy is comprehensive: to subsist on your energy, to manipulate your social, financial, and relational environment, and to live vicariously through your spiritual vitality. I've mentioned this earlier. You may notice subtle yet disconcerting shifts in behavior among those around you. Friends and family who once acted predictably now behave in ways that feel unsettling or disorienting. What was once familiar and stable now appears distorted, leaving you questioning the reality of your interactions. This happened to me, not in a romantic context, but within my own family. When I finally distanced myself from my abusive, narcissistic mother, I discovered that a significant portion of my relatives sided with her, fully aware of the abuse I had endured throughout my upbringing. Naturally, it was painful, but it also served as a profound revelation. What was intended to break me ultimately worked in my favor. It illuminated who harbored hidden resentment toward me all along. Like Jezebel with her flying monkeys, my mother rallied her Ahabs, those who blindly followed her, revealing their true colors in the process. Frequently, when a warlock triangulates individuals within your network, those people begin to inadvertently, or deliberately, signal their involvement. You may notice them adopting specific language or phrasing used by the warlock, or referencing private circumstances that should be inaccessible to anyone outside the intimate dynamics between you and him. This is not coincidental. It reflects the covert alignment of these individuals with the warlock and the occult processes, particularly rituals designed to humiliate or subvert you. On some level, these participants are compelled to indicate their complicity, even if subtly. The critical response in these circumstances is unequivocal. Establish strict no-contact boundaries. Disengage from both the warlock and anyone who has been compromised within your circle. Emotional attempts to salvage relationships or seek validation from those who have aligned with the warlock are counterproductive. The primary objective is to deny access, both physical and spiritual, to anyone who has become a conduit for his influence. By doing so, you disrupt the energetic channels through which your spirit has been siphoned. Recognizing that you have been contending with a warlock is often accompanied by intense self-reflection and emotional upheaval. The realization that long-standing relationships have been subverted, that individuals you trusted are complicit in this infiltration, can be profoundly disorienting, yet it is essential to contextualize this experience. The warlock functions as a revealer of hidden truths. Long-standing envy, resentment, or opportunism that previously lay dormant within your social circle is brought to the surface through his intervention. Those who align with the warlock often do so not out of loyalty to him, but out of the opportunity he presents, a chance to assert power over you, to exploit vulnerabilities, or to gratify latent rivalries. While confronting this reality can be painful, it also serves a purgative function. It illuminates the true character of those around you, providing clarity about who genuinely supports you versus who merely feigned allegiance. From a higher spiritual perspective, this process is a form of purification. It compels you to disengage from relationships that are energetically or morally misaligned, thereby streamlining your life and safeguarding your vibrational integrity. By stepping back and observing these dynamics from a broader vantage point, one can recognize that these trials, though difficult, are catalytic for spiritual maturation. They compel discernment, strengthen boundaries, and foster the cultivation of a social environment that is harmonious, authentic, and spiritually congruent. Ultimately, the warlock's intrusion, while disruptive, is also revelatory. It exposes hidden truths, clarifies relational realities, and underscores the necessity of establishing firm spiritual, emotional, and energetic boundaries. The path forward is clear. Maintain vigilance, deny access, and prioritize the preservation of your energy and spiritual sovereignty. How to reclaim your energy and protect your destiny from your warlock. The most effective way to neutralize a warlock's influence is to withhold your energy entirely. Cut off all communication. Emotional attachment or personal affinity is irrelevant in this context. If someone is triangulating, manipulating, or attempting to provoke you, they fundamentally do not respect your energy or your spiritual boundaries. It is essential to remember that your worth and destiny are inherent. You are already chosen, and no one else's validation is required to affirm your significance. Those who seek to tap into your energy are doing so to compensate for their own deficiency, not because they have a legitimate claim to yours. By maintaining energetic discretion, you deny them the leverage they seek. Practical steps to reclaim your energy. 1. Spiritual reconciliation. Begin by praying and repenting. Seek God's guidance and forgiveness for any involvement with someone who was not aligned with your spiritual or moral well-being. This step affirms that your heart is aligned with divine intent and sets the foundation for spiritual restoration. 2. Energetic sovereignty. Declare and decree that your destiny and energy are yours alone. Consciously call back all energy that has been distributed to him, his associates, or anyone acting as a conduit for his siphoning. Reaffirm that no individual, spiritually or legally, has the right to your vitality or life force. 3. Sever intimacy. Immediately cease all forms of physical, emotional, or spiritual intimacy. Access granted through these channels reinforces energetic vulnerability. Closing them is non-negotiable. 4. Reinvest in yourself. Redirect your attention and effort into activities that nourish your soul and elevate your vibration. Engage in creative expression, exploration, and joy. Sing, dance, create, travel, dine, and cultivate personal experiences that empower you. Prioritize your growth and fulfillment without disclosure or justification to the individual who sought to drain you. As you reclaim your energy and live aligned with your higher purpose, the Warlock will sense the shift. Any claims of change, remorse, or personal development on his part are irrelevant. Control is never granted to him, only to yourself. By embodying indifference and unwavering focus on your destiny, you manifest a reality independent of his influence. There is no requirement to over-explain your boundaries, departure, or disengagement. Those who attempt to manipulate or control are often operating from a place of unmet need. Your responsibility is not to fulfill it. Disappear when necessary, protect your energy, and observe as your life returns to equilibrium, often flourishing beyond its previous state. In essence, reclaiming your energy is synonymous with reclaiming your destiny. Protect your spirit, enforce boundaries, and invest fully in your growth. The path forward is one of empowerment. Live fully, live joyfully, and allow no external force to divert the energy that is rightfully yours. When you remain rooted in God, actively discerning and shielding your spirit, siphoners cannot hijack your destiny. Their efforts may create temporary turbulence, but they cannot override divine order. Empowerment, then, is not just reclaiming your energy, but standing firm in the truth that your destiny is sealed and cannot be exchanged without your consent or your surrender.